Hello, welcome inside the Hera Press Box. We are here on our Thursday evening edition of our podcast, and we're going to dive right in because we probably have too much to cover in the 40 minutes that we want to take. So we'll try to get everything, at least the important stuff in, and if anything leaks over to Sunday, we can finish it up then. But
Mhm.
let's get right into it. You were able to watch today that involved Bethany Maddox Sands. I was unable to. The injury that occurred, I
Mhm.
understand, was gruesome, heartbreaking. Two
Yeah,
words
yeah,
to barely graze the surface of what happened to the American today.
yeah.
And as far as the display after the injury,
Right.
that was a whole different story, as what the fans had to endure, her opponent, and those watching the match had to endure. If you
Yeah.
want to take a minute to explain what you saw, your
Yeah.
feelings towards that.
So I wasn't able to fully watch the match. I ended up because I was at work today, so I ended up just um, checking the score out. So just googling Bethany's name to see what was going on because I knew that she was playing at the time, and all that popped up was just article after article after article, and just each title got worse and worse. Knee injury, gruesome knee injury, horrific knee injury, and I'm just sitting there like, no, I'm like, I think you've got the wrong person. Then I was able to actually turn on the TV, and they replayed it on TV, which was really surprising. Usually they don't replay such a gruesome injury like that. Uh, Again, a non-contact injury, which it's the way that the most gruesome injury seems to be non-contact. Pretty much she returned the serve and she was coming up to the net and her knee essentially just buckled underneath her. You could see as the camera kind of zoomed in, her knee was definitely not in the right place. Something was definitely wrong. Um, didn't have the volume on, which is probably a good thing because she had screamed out in pain. Obviously, something that's going to hurt quite a bit. From reading some articles and from her opponent, and I'm going to mispronounce her name, so I don't even know if I want to even go there on pronouncing her opponent's name. But she pretty much said that she went into shock right away. She was calling out for her to help her, pretty much just calling out for help in general. Opponent said that she felt completely useless, but I think she did, the best that she could have done is she pretty much went up to Bethany, and she knew her knee was out of place. And obviously that's a shock to her as well because you go up to someone, you're not really looking to see that gruesome of an injury. She called for help, obviously, right away. Within the article on The Guardian, I think you told me you read it as well, she had said that Bethany's husband and her, and then her doctor or trainer, how she called it, her physio, however you wanted to find that word, were out on the court before anybody else had gotten there, and it had taken a minute for training staff to get there, which doesn't really seem like a long time. But if you look at comparison to other sports, let's just bring up the NFL and the NBA. Your trainers are there in 10 seconds at the most. And I think she had brought up, or maybe the article brought up, what if it was a heart issue? We're talking about
Mhm.
seconds that really matter there. And then we're talking about she was on the court for 25 minutes, which is in and of itself a whole different conversation. Obviously, you want her to be in a comfortable enough position to where you can actually transport her. So you don't want to be moving her within 2 minutes, I would say. I know that the article had brought up that they were administering some pain medication as well, and that takes a minute to kick in too. But completely heartbreaking. And I don't even think that that's the right word for me, simply because she's probably my favorite player on tour right now, and one of the favorites on tour. That's I've heard nothing but good things about her. Chrissy Everett the other day had nothing but good things to say about her, and that continued today as well. And as you could see, the tennis community pretty much just rallied around her. I mean, obviously, she's got to be a great person on tour to play with and to play against.
Yeah. One thing, the big thing that I kind of found interesting about this whole ordeal. And this comes from reading that Guardian article where they talk about the condition of the court. They talk
Yep.
about the heat that has kept these courts dry. The players have made comments about the poor play. Was it in that article where it mentioned a different court where the two players had both said it wasn't fit to play on, and the referee
Right.
said keep playing?
Yep. That's disheartening to hear, because I think within that same article, and I, off the top of my head, I can pull up the article too. I don't know if you have it pulled up, but one of the players on that court said it's very rare for two players to come together and agree on something like that. A lot of players you see because of darkness, especially with Wimbledon.
Carolyn.
Yeah. You see that the complaints about darkness.
Yeah,
But-
and so yesterday, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, I believe it was yesterday though, there were at least the main panel of ESPN and other athletes were making comments about the players retiring and the great number of players that are retiring, and that it's taking away from the fans that have paid their money. And now we have this. Now we see the progression of the worsening of the courts. Not blaming the injury today on the court, but you can do the math and see that it's a good chance it has something to do with the toughness of the court.
Right.
So that I wonder if we will backtrack on those statements made by those analysts on those comments, if we'll see any developments as far as maintenance of the courts. But just very odd to me that interesting, I guess, that happened 24 hours after we heard those comments.
Right, exactly. And with Wimbledon, it's one of those unique places where it's so difficult to maintain the surface, because you can already see, what are we, 4 days in to the tournament, and baselines are already dirt or sand or whatever they put down. I mean, the grass is completely gone. So it's just one of those surfaces that whether we need to rethink or they need to rethink what kind of surface Wimbledon is, not necessarily changing it from, not saying grass to hard court, but switching up, doing some sort of research on what you can actually put down. That's going to be safer for the athletes, which in turn means you're pulling in fans because people are playing because they're not getting injured, because your courts are diminished by the fourth day of the tournament.
I agree. And here's a little trivia for this. Is something I had looked up before. I wanted to compare the grass of a tennis court to the greens of a golf course. So this is about 0.8. What would that be? 0.8 millimeters is what their grass is kept at. So, and I mean, that's not going to change anything, but just to give you an idea of probably how difficult it is to manicure that grass, let alone keep moisture there, so it's not like a concrete slab they're playing on.
Yeah, and I before the tournament started, I was wondering if they even, what does it look like before Wimbledon happens? How far up in advance do they stop play on the courts, or do they just not kind of essentially worry about that? The reason why I thought about that, because at Erin Hills, which is where the latest major for golf was at for the men's side, it was a year out. So they closed down Erin Hills a year out in advance. And with golf, you can do that because it varies. With Wimbledon and with the French Open, Australian, and US Open, you really can't do anything about it. But what can they do in advance to help it sustain further than 4 days into the tournament? And then if you're thinking that the courts are this bad now, imagine for the championships. What is it like then?
Right.
How dangerous is it going to get then? Is someone going to need to get injured in a final for it to become even more of a big deal? Or are we just going to sit and kind of just wait it out to see what happens?
Right. Before we get into that discussion about how big of a deal are injuries, when will people start worrying about certain injuries? To to close that last discussion, I mentioned right before we started that I found something right before we began that caught my eye and got me a little heated, I guess. This was on an ESPN article, and this is only time that these players are mentioned, only time that I believe the women's game is mentioned in the article. And this is after Djokovic's opponent had retired. ESPN article, to be clear, Caroline Wozniacki squaring off against Timio Babos. The match moved to center court as a last-minute replacement after the double withdrawals. Didn't exactly give the main stage much buzz. The fact that somebody thought that needed to be said says whatever you wanted to say about that. So, because I mean, if you don't put that in the article, I don't believe you're going to lose any readers. But that's
just had to slip that in there.
Yeah, they just had to put that in there.
Clearly, it made the article.
It did. Yep, it made it for me. So anyway, previously you had sent me an article about the softball player Emily Allard and her playing through her concussions. And so I found a couple more articles on concussions, and then I started looking for any article that might have some backing research on the more injury-prone female knee is what it seems like as far as the ACL. And I did find one research-type article from Denver, and it talks about the way a guy stops his run versus the way a girl stops her run, whether the guy's using the back of his thigh and the girl uses the front of her thigh, putting more pressure on her knees. And then there was also the talk of the estrogen and different hormones and fluctuating levels have some impacts on the strengths of muscles and kind of how your body talks to itself to figure out how to prevent injuries. So that article was interesting. Any of those that I sent you catch your eye, or did you have anything else you found?
No, I mean, pretty much anything else that I found was just going over again what the one that you found from Colorado was going over. And it sucks that it's not necessarily something that isn't fixed, because how do you fix how can you mentally say, well, I'm going to use the muscle on the back of my thigh versus using the muscle on the front of my thigh? Like, there's really nothing to do about it, or at least there's nothing been proven to be necessarily significant. I think at the end of the day, it's, strengthening those muscles, no matter which muscle it is, and doing those types of things in hopes of preventing, if you look at ACL injuries, freak kind of accidents where it's a non-contact, you're landing the wrong way, you're cutting the wrong way. So at the end of the day, I think that there's not a whole lot we can do because it is such a freak accident. But being able to lower the women's numbers, we should be able to do something about that. It's a matter of getting enough research. First off, just research in general, whether that's proving, hey, this is what works, this is what doesn't. Let's just get research going to be the first step. Second step is, okay, here are the results. What can we do with it? Let's look further into this and what we can exactly do, what we can share with them on how to prevent such injuries.
One of the things I've heard, as it seems they're becoming even more common on the men's side of sports, is that their bodies are getting stronger, and which means they're getting bigger, putting more pressure on the lower half of your body, especially your knees, ligaments in your knees. So it'll be interesting to see if there's anything that we can do, and like this article tries to do as far as the research is concerned. We have plenty of that'd be kinesiology, plenty of kinesiology.
Right.
experts out there who have the ability to research this stuff. So
yeah,
you got to hope for.
Yeah, and I one of the articles I think you sent me, it might have been the ESPN one, where the social worker had said a major problem. This is a direct quote from her. A major problem with concussion. Well, this is concussion research, and that's, essentially kind of take it as the same way, because there's not a lot of research on the female side for concussions or for knees for women, is that very few people conduct it who don't have a stake in its outcome. I think these folks didn't want to see their names used in lawsuits. So you're taking a risk, and then that article kind of goes over, if your name is on the research and you're really excited to do this research and you're really hoping for a certain outcome, and in order to continue this research, you need funding. What are you doing with the results? Are you messing with the results in any sort of way? Are you giving false hope to something? So it's more than just, let's get some research out there. We need people who are wanting to do it and willing to kind of be out on a ledge and put their name out there with it.
Right. Yeah. So, and there's two stats really show the need for this type of research, or whatever needs to take place to prevent this from happening. And those are that Denver article mentions ACL injuries occur with a 4 to 6-fold greater incidence in females compared to male athletes. And then the concussion number that really stands out is that, well, I guess it goes into explaining how the neck strength is a big component of sustaining a concussion. And whatever science shows 50% less neck strength in females compared to males. So, is that the route that we have to go to strengthen your neck to do? And I think that was mentioned, if not in that article, it was mentioned in an Excel Sports article.
Yep.
Strengthening necks. So option there, I guess.
Right. And I don't remember, I think it was in the Colorado article, it was talking about the hormone side of things. And again, that's a little bit more related to concussions, but it's just kind of, they did a study, I do believe it was on actually rats, and they found that adding progesterone, whichever, it might have been estrogen, they added it and it worked with them in helping prevent injuries. But then they looked at when women were getting injured, and they looked at the hormones going on at that point, and they were essentially opposite of what they had found. So it's a matter of, I think a lot of it is on the hormone side. I think we tend to look past that just because we kind of want to and think that everything is just on the physical side of things, where hormones are clearly playing a big part in this.
Yeah, and so another article that ties in with the concussions I had sent you was about the professional women's soccer players, talking about the concussion protocol that is in women's soccer, or lack thereof protocol, if you should say.
Yeah, I was going to say concussion protocol in quotes, because it's definitely not a protocol whatsoever.
So this comes from Excel Sports. Rachel Breton wrote this article and talks about her conversations with former professional players who have went through these protocols that basically you get a concussion and then they let you sit out a couple of days, and then they bang a ball against your head and see if you're all right enough to play next week, is kind of the gist of this article. And it talks about how there's the sport, as far as concussions are concerned, are still 10, 15 years behind, compared to the NFL, where we're taking this as serious as ever before, as more serious than anybody ever thought it would be. And this article talks about how the soccer players are obviously telling their coach they're fine, they can continue playing, just so they can play, not getting checked. It's are you okay to play? Yes, we'll go back in there and keep playing. That's where we're at right now with that.
Right. And I think as a whole, concussions haven't been taken seriously for a very long time. And like you said, we're years behind it. I mean, years behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just one of those things, because I've always thought over the years, I mean, how do soccer players not get concussions? How do we not hear about this? How can you be repeatedly heading a ball? I mean, and I'm talking on a daily basis, and who knows how many times on a daily basis do they head the ball, yet they're out there for 90 plus minutes
Mm-hmm.
every week for a season, for a game during a season of a couple months. And
yeah, it talked in here. I had forgotten that heading is no longer allowed at the lower levels,
right.
the younger levels.
Yeah.
And I think it mentioned maybe like 8 years old, might be younger than that. And I wouldn't be surprised if that goes up until you're in high school where they don't allow that if it's not there already in some places.
Well, and that's the thing that I thought about too when I was reading these articles is growing up, I was never told, hey, don't head the ball because you might get a concussion, or hey, do this exercise because it could prevent you from tearing your ACL. There was never any sort of education. The reason why I knew about concussions or ACL injuries is because I watch sports. You hear about them from your TV instead of being taught them and taught how to prevent and how to, basically head a ball correctly, or how to do, a lunge that's going to strengthen muscles around your knee, or squats. And so I think a lot of it is education as far as doing some sort of preventative work beforehand.
Well,
yeah.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying I ended up coming across another article on Excel saying that a new study found CTE in the brains of former professional soccer players. And they found it in 4 former players who all had advanced dementia. And I'm just seeing.
How long is it? How old is that article?
This article is from February 15th of this year.
Okay.
It doesn't list the players, it just says who was in charge of basically the study. My guess is that it was female soccer players. There's a picture of the NWSL teams as like the article picture. And then it talks about how Wambach Rapinoe and Brandy Chastain have announced that they're donating their brains for concussion research.
Yeah, you got to think how many soccer balls did Wambach hit from? Yeah, I mean crosses and not just floaters. I mean line drives where she was diving to go meet him. Yeah. So I know she's tough, but that's a lot.
Here we go. Here just shows you how great FIFA is. This is a quote from the article from FIFA. To our very best knowledge, there is currently no true evidence of the negative effect of heading or other subconcussive blows, a FIFA official wrote in the press release. The results are inconclusive.
Yeah, that's a talking point for sure.
They will continue to monitor the situation though. I'm sure you will, FIFA.
Well, let me go ahead and go through the scores. We're 25 minutes in, so we'll go ahead and get those out of the way. And I've got plenty to run through with Wimbledon. So let's start in the WNBA. Alicia Gray and Skylar Diggins combined for 41. and the Wings beat the Dream. The Stars shot 33% and lost by 33 to Connecticut. San Antonio is now 1-15. Griners 30-14 powered the Sun over Washington. That flips those teams in the middle of the standings. And tonight on ESPN, the Lynx handled Los Angeles, holding Candace Parker to one field goal, while Moore, Fowles, Montgomery, and Augustus went for double figures. New York and Seattle are in the second half right now. The Akron Racers beat Chicago twice. Ashley Thomas had 4 base hits in the leadoff spot for Akron. San Antonio won 1-0 over Scrapyard and are currently playing Beijing, who won their first game of the year yesterday against Texas. In the last 2 days, Scrapyard picked up 2 wins, 2 outstanding pitching performances. Today's gem for Monica Abbott, who picked up 3 strikeouts in the final frame to end with 13. The tourney on grass is down to 32 players. Top seed Angelique Kerber is back with vengeance. She's into the third round, needing only 4 sets to get there. American Shelby Rogers will face her there after an upset today. Radwanska and Baskinski, both top 20 players, will meet lower in that bracket. 32-year-old Russian Kuznetsova has looked strong thus far and will play an unranked opponent for a shot at the next round. Pliskova's upset has her part of the bracket wide open for non-ranked players. Coco Vandeweghe is through with 2 straight set wins. Caroline Wozniacki is set to play Annette Kontavet a little over a year after Kontavet defeated Caroline in their only matchup. Cibulkova escaped a first-round tiebreak and is now in the third round. Venus Williams outlasted promising Quang Yang. French Open champ Jelena Ostapenko is set to face Italian Camilla Gorigi after she upset Madison Keys. A German to watch, Karina Wittoff, is on to face 4th-ranked Cipollini after 2 3-set wins. 101st-ranked Maria Sakkari will go against the 6th seed, and upsets of Kvitova, Sevastova, and Suarez Navarro clear the path for Halep and Azarenka.
Mm-hmm.
Who's winning?
I was just about to ask you that. Well, who's winning? Who do I want to win? Again, 2 completely different answers for them. I want Wozniacki to win out of who's left. Now, who do I think is going to win? I could see Kerber taking it. I mean, she's number 1 for a reason. So those are my 2 off the top of my head right now.
Mm-hmm.
Ostapenko, from what I saw of her, she was in a bind either the first round or this last round, and she was able to get out of it, but I thought she was going to be exiting earlier. So that's good to see that she can come back from that. Always, obviously, being a champion at the last major, going to give you some confidence in that next major. So I wouldn't be surprised if she makes another run.
Mm-hmm. So I have Wozniacki over the Brit Heather Watson.
Yeah. Oof.
That's
tough.
She would have to go through Halep and Venus.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been impressed, and
she's got the crowd.
When I saw her second match, I thought, okay, well, when I make predictions, I'm probably going to put her further than she's going to actually go, and here she is going to the finals in my bracket. So, yeah, I have her beating Williams to get to the finals.
Okay.
Wozniacki beating Kerber to get to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sakkari is going to win one more match, but Croatian Garcia, she's had luck on grass. I think she'll be able to beat Sakkari, but that the Greek is here to stay. I do believe so. I'm happy to watch her win. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah.
As I guess all of my players have been winning, so this has been enjoyable for me.
Except for Bouchard.
Right, but that's all right because I'm looking for a new Canadian.
It's over and done with.
There have been tweets, so I'll search for I'll search for Eugenie Bouchard on Twitter just to see who's tweeting about her or what they're saying, and and I would say 85% of the tweets about her are negative, saying that she's trash or she's never gonna be any good. And just 2 weeks ago, I was on the other side of that, but after she blew that. She won 6-2 or something in the first set, and then didn't have a chance. Maybe 6-1, 6-1 in the final two sets. So, not looking good for the Canadian.
Right. Well, and I guess I haven't looked up her stats or whatever, but I think I saw that she was ranked 56th in the world, which, if you're thinking about it, just 56th to be ranked 10 is great. But when you're trying to go out and win majors, when you're kind of the face of your country in a way, on the women's side at least, you got to start winning something, whether that's, you don't even have to start with majors, start winning just some titles on tour, and let's just start there and go from there. Because if she's winning at all on tour, she's not ranked 56th in the world. There's no way.
Yeah, and to think how old is she? She's 23, and to think that we're already kind of, I guess, saying her career is over is harsh, but the way she's played, not looking good.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah, I pulled up the score. So she won 6-1, and then got beat 1-6, 1-6. Yeah, that's right.
That's harsh. But she was also playing Suarez Navarro. So that, I'll give her a little bit of a break there.
I will.
Just not even a tad?
No, because I have, because I have, no, Suarez Navarro got beat next round, right?
I think so.
Not sure by who, but yeah, that's one Bouchard needs to get, and she didn't. So
yeah, so I'm just kind of going back through the scores here of her past tournaments. Eastbourne International, that was the end of June. She lost in the round of 64. Next tournament before that, lost in the round of 32. French Open, she lost in the round of 64. So she's really not doing anything.
No, that's right.
Last thing she did, she lost in the quarterfinal in the Madrid Open. That was back in May. Is when she really did anything further than a first or second round.
To go back to a previous discussion, and this has been a couple weeks ago that we talked about this. Another article on Excel Sports from July 6th is titled "How the WNBA's Bet on FanDuel is Paying Off Huge Rewards." That is from Andrew Kahn on Excel Sports, and it's shines a pretty good light on the decision of the WNBA. Has a few quotes from now somewhat fans of the WNBA who says that he had never watched a game before the WNBA had this deal with FanDuel, and now he's been to a game, bought a T-shirt, and he roots for the local team and follows their scores. So they have picked up fans. We'll see if that continues. It will be great for the league and for the sport. I was not the biggest fan of the move, but that's just because my morals are probably too strong, and sometimes I should leave them at the door or at least on the coat rack when I come inside. So if we're throwing money at it and it can make somebody money and they can pay attention to the league at the same time as it makes the money in the league, then I shouldn't be complaining.
Right. It's just a backwards way of how we want it to work. But
the world we live in.
It's working, I guess. Our main focus is to bring in fans, right? Or I guess make money.
Yeah, so it'd be, hopefully that can translate to people in the arenas. I don't know if we'll have to pay attention to the attendance over the next couple of years. It'd be great if I'd like to do some research on kind of what that TV deal is with ESPN. I don't know if it's it's maybe a couple years and a handful of games each season, but we'll see if that gets worked out and creates a bigger market.
Yeah, the Lynx and Sparks game was pretty well attended tonight, which is, I mean, to be expected pretty much with the rematch of the finals. So, but, Thursday night, so pretty good to see. I don't know if
better than Tuesday morning.
Better than Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. I still just don't get that one. It confuses me.
We've been teasing guests or talking about that we're gonna have them, and I'll throw another name in the list now that now that we've talked about this ACL stuff. If we'd had more time to plan for it, I could have gotten hold of Anne-Marie Brown. I'm sure she would love to talk about that stuff. She tore her ACL in the same knee twice, and their other knee once, I think, right? Once in high school, twice in college, and kinesiology major. So that's right up her alley, and I'm sure she'd love to come on and talk a little bit about that. So we'll see if I can
get some comments from her or something, even at the very least.
Yeah, I'm sure she'd be willing to do that. So that's probably in the future. Unfortunately, those injuries are bound to happen again, especially in NWSL, where we've seen 4 Washington Spirit players go down in the last 8 months, I think I saw. So not to mention Ojai with the dash. So unfortunately, a bigger part of the game, and we'll have discussions later about that. But for this episode, I think we've all just about wrapped up. If you want to add anything to close us out.
I just saw, before we kind of got started here, I'm going to say his last name wrong, but Dan Lauletta.
Oh,
that's correct.
Yep.
Tweeted out that Rose is going to be at some announcement that FC Kansas City's having tomorrow that involves women's soccer. So we shall see. Your wish may come true.
With what?
I don't know. Are they going to add a team in Cincinnati? Is that what they're teasing? I don't know. Adding a team in, hopefully,
maybe I know.
Yeah, maybe you know.
Maybe I'm flying out tonight. No, that'd be a drive. It's a 3-hour drive. Yeah, I didn't see that. That's interesting.
I mean, that's just the first thing that came to my mind was, well, the next step would be he said it's women's soccer related.
Well, the next step would be to get a commissioner who's nobody's worried about. But
clearly, you're just going to let the league run itself.
It's none of my business, I guess. Still waiting on that callback.
Yeah. It's a little rude for the person not to get back to you, huh?
Yeah, I know it is, but what are you going to do, I guess? Okay, well, Sunday we will be wrapping up NWSL talk with the games this weekend. A little bit more Wimbledon, hopefully actually a little less Wimbledon. Maybe there won't be as much of a storyline that we need to talk about, more about the game than about the off-the-court injury stuff. But whatever it is, we'll talk about it, and we'll be here at the same time Sunday night. Thanks for stopping by the Herald Press Box.